it's we have to have scaffolding. We have to be built not on quicksand of your moment of privilege right now and giving out handouts to us. Make it permanent, and the only way you can make it permanent is that make sure that we have a firm footing.
The Kingston Canadian Film Festival proudly presents Rewind Fast Forward, a podcast where we chat with filmmakers about their work and the future of the Canadian cinema. My name is Thom Ernst. Welcome. Well, it's my great pleasure once again. This is perhaps the third time in my career that I get to sit down with one of Canada's greatest filmmakers. And because of the way she makes her films and because of the way her subjects travel, we can say that she's one of the world's greatest cinema filmmakers. I'm talking, of course, of Deepa Mehta. And thank you again, Deepa, for joining me. Always a pleasure to chat with you.
My pleasure entirely, Tom. This is going to be fun. I mean, how can we blow it after you've given me such a rave introduction?
Well, my rave introduction, yeah, I mean, there's so many places I can go with that, but one of my favorite stories, and I'm afraid that you might go, oh God, he's going to tell that story again, because but one of my favorite moments is um, at the time I was seeing a woman who is also a director. She's also from India, and we went to see one of your premieres at the Princess of Wales Theatre. No, the Pantages. It was Pantages back then, during the Toronto Film Festival. And watching you come out at the end of the film to do a Q&A, you just owned that theater. I just looked at this woman. You were wearing a sari. You came out. I think it was fire. Yet it's hard to remember. It's either fire or water that I was seeing, and you just owned it. And I was just sat there amazed at the film I just saw and this person who came out on stage. And what it was that struck me about that moment was the confidence you displayed. And I have to wonder if that confidence was always there, even before a camera landed in your hand.
I don't know if the confidence is always there, but what I think I was brought up I was born in India. I was brought up there. I went to boarding school there. I went to university there. So I have long. I wasn't an immigrant who came here at the age of 8. So I have very strong rooted roots in India, and being with my parents, and who were, in fact, who never. My father and my mother both felt that both their children uh, were should be proud of whatever they are capable of being proud of. So it wasn't that, oh, you're terrific and you're good at whatever you do. But if we did something, we were asked and taught to own it, whether it was something that was disastrous or something that was good, it was ours. So if that is confidence, I think that is a learned thing that I got from my parents. You owe your film, you go out there, and the brickbats will come, the roses will come, but that's irrelevant. If you own whatever you do, I think that's what gives you confidence. And that came not as, oh my God, I'm bringing up a confident kid, but more that I'm bringing up a truthful kid.
So honesty is truth, then, if we were to skim that down.
Yep, I think so. Yeah.
That's a very good way of putting it. I wonder though, when you say own it, even if it's disastrous, that has got to be the hardest part, I think, of a filmmaker is if something doesn't work, and owning that. Even as a child, that's a difficult thing to do. Owning the fact that something you did wasn't perhaps perfection. Um, yeah,
Well,
if you speak about that a bit.
no, then that's again something that happened with my dad, actually, because he was a film distributor in India, and we grew up with films. And I mean, I think I saw the first film that I ever saw, maybe about 60 times, my mother tells me. But I was about 7 years old. But the whole point was that f- we actually, as children, were sort of nervous when Friday came along, because Friday was a date and a day that films were got released back then when they did get released. I guess they even still are.
Yeah.
And my father's move, if the film did well, my father was really a lovely guy to be around. But if the film had done bombed in the box office, he would be quiet and to himself and more thoughtful and not very approachable. Um, Later, when I decided that I didn't want to go into academics and I really wanted to be a film director, when I told my dad, I said, Dad, this is what I want to do. And he said, fine, if that's what you want to do, it's your life, do it. But remember, there are two things in life. One is you will never know when you're going to die, and the other is you'll never ever know how a film is going to perform. And I was like, what, 20? And that, there's certain things. I'm not saying that I don't want my films to do well. I want them to be. I'm slightly disappointed if they aren't, or if they aren't well received, or happy if they are. But it's given somehow something sticks in your mind when you're a kid or a young adult in this case. And this really did. It's about be realistic about your expectations and know that you have no clue. You might have the best actors, you might have the biggest budgets, but you have no clue how your film's going to do. And neither you have any clue when you're going to die. So I thought that was rather dramatic and lovely.
It is, and those are two extremes that have kind of, I suppose, at the end of every film, and there's a death there. I mean, you've completed that
Oh,
film. You,
totally. Totally.
yeah,
It's finished, right? And what's going to happen to it after that, you're clueless. What's going to happen to you after you die? I mean, I don't know. Who knows?
yeah.
When you finish your film, I mean, you have no clue. You have no clue. You might have the critics loving it earlier in a previous screening, and then you show it to a group of people, and you have no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah, I might be asking the wrong person this question, but how do you deal with a disappointment
How do I feel with a disappointment?
or deal with it?
Deal with it. I mean, I
Mhm.
think that it changes from film to film. I mean, usually when there's I've written the film, and I've had a as opposed to, and we've produced it, David has produced it as opposed to somebody else doing it, and me directing somebody else's work. I mean, I have so much more um, lying on. It's so much more of me than if I'd worked for somebody else. So the disappointment's a bit deeper. How do I deal with it? I
Mm.
don't know. I just mourn around for about 2 or 3 days, and then I just move on. What do you do? I mean, I do. I don't sit there and say, oh, that's fine. Let's move on today. I can't. I mean, that's impossible. But I do know, like my dad told me, that just you have to move on. You have to limit your expectations.
That's interesting. I'll bring in an example. Peter Bogdanovich, who recently left us,
Yeah.
had some uh, huge flops uh, on scales that we could never imagine. And one of them was At Long Last Love,
Mm-hmm.
a musical, which I, by the way, happen to like. Go figure.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and when I talked to him about that film, I was expecting him to reply about the failure, about the champagne's corks popping in Hollywood because he was so disliked.
Really?
And
I
he
didn't
talked
know
about that film
that.
as if he absolutely adored it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I wondered if that's a defense mechanism that you just have to have in the business.
I think that, I mean, it's happened that the problems that have arisen with some of my films, and with the result that it's been hurtful or disappointing. And I don't have such a defense mechanism as saying that, oh, it was fantastic. I mean, I have a way of saying, okay, it didn't work for perhaps this reason or that reason. I don't sit forever looking at what the critics say, or why people dislike me and why they said that. I'm just not that kind of a person. Uh, I think Mr. Bogdanovich was. I mean, I think the Last Picture Show is one of the finest films I have seen. It's just amazing. He was very, very talented. But we all have our ways of dealing with disappointment. His was, I loved the work, and maybe he did. Who knows, Tom? Maybe he did love
I got
whatever.
the sense he did. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's confidence too. that really is confidence, because that is, I don't give a, I don't give a flying whatever. But I like it, you know.
Yeah. We're going to leave that topic because there's really, if you're talking about movies that disappoint, there's not a whole lot to talk about along that line with you because your films rarely disappoint, um, uh, and certainly not with me. But I also wonder too if a film does disappoint on some level, that it's just a fragment of a section of the community, that there are other people who just, that cinema is just one of these things that can embrace hundreds and millions and thousands, and at the same time alienate a smaller group. So
Or alienates a large group and and is embraced by a few. It can be either. It's very rarely. I remember being interviewed a long time ago, and somebody said to me, it was in Sri Lanka, I think, and I said, and we were talking about the fact that there is no such thing as a perfect film, and can you name one? He asked me personally, and I had to think about it. And I said, as far as Western films are concerned, the one that I thought was very close to perfection, I, and maybe perfect even, is Godfather. Godfather
yeah.
1. I mean, I just thought, my God, this film is flawless. It just got me on every level.
Hmm.
And if I think of Indian cinema, I think of a film called Charulata by Satyajit Ray, which I
Yep.
think is perfect. When I think of maybe Japanese cinema, I think of uh, Ozu's Tokyo Story, because that really got to me. When I think of Italian cinema, I think of Bicycle Thieves. I mean,
Yeah.
these are things that just come to mind, and I say there is perfect cinema as far as I'm concerned. Uh, but even if you get too close to even a little bit of what I consider perfection, if I can, I'd be honored.
Well, I think your trilogy, your Element trilogy, certainly achieves a lot of that. Um, and I also think that you're telling a story from a perspective that must have felt initially. And I'm of course talking as a white male who's always lived in Canada. I've traveled outside of it, but from that, making a film about India, or with characters with Indian actors, might have seemed like a risky venture. And because of it, though, you, Deepa, have expanded the vision and the breadth of Canadian cinema way outside our borders. And I think that you might have been one of the first to achieve that.
I don't know. I mean, perhaps because when I started making movies, it's don't forget. I mean, those are very formative years of one's life. From childhood to end of university. I mean, those are all really. And my folks and my family's all there in India still. I mean, nobody came to Canada. I remember I asked my father and my mother years ago, and I said, "Why don't you migrate here?" And my father says, "I refuse to migrate to a country where the first question the immigration officer asks you is, when are you leaving?" So he said he just absolutely he had nothing to do. I said, good for you, Dad. I mean, I don't think he even contemplated it. So they're very deeply rooted in India. And that makes it different. This is not a family that I came with a family, and it's different. I mean, and my relationship with India is not necessarily better than anybody else who was born here who's Indian. But these are the stories I grew up with. This is the cinema I saw. If I saw, if I saw La Dolce Vita for the first time, it was in Delhi, and it's sort of that image of the fountain scene of Anita
Mm.
Ekman and Mastroianni uh, was outside our main street in Kasturba Gandhi Marg in Max Miller Bhavan in Delhi, where I came out and I just sat at the curb when you could sit at the curb. Now you can't, of course, and say, "Oh my God, I've seen something wonderful." And those things are so rooted. So I never thought that, oh, I'm doing something that's Indian. I know I fought for authenticity. And to get money from Canadian funders, it was important for them to understand that I had to make I had to make water in Hindi. It
Yeah.
just made no sense uh, to us that a film about widows in India in 1930s in a small town would be speaking English.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we
Was
had
was
to.
was that a struggle? Did they cooperate, or was that a huge struggle for you?
It was the first time around before, first time we tried to do it, water, it was shut down and it was a struggle then. But the second time around, I think much to their, perhaps they felt sorry for me, I don't know. But I think it was Richard Sturzberg actually, who was the head of Telefilm then. He said, listen, this is like a federal thing. You have to go through the ministry, etc. I don't know, whatever, to have it for telefilm. But why don't you do one thing? Why don't you shoot the film in Hindi and do one scene, whichever one you want to, every second scene or something in English. So and just do it, and you don't even just show it to us, and that's the only thing. And it was very easy. So I do my 3 takes in Hindi, which I really needed. It was a bit of a drag and it cost money, but I'd do the same thing with actors who could, would do the same thing in English without rehearsals or something. So it was a cheat of one kind. And I never want anybody ever, Tom, any other filmmaker, whether they're Syrian or Serbian or from, from Poland, that they ever have to do what I had to do. This whole journey of wanting to fight for a voice. If we are really a multicultural country, if we really do believe in diversity, then let's get our shit together and let the filmmakers make their films in the languages. If they're Canadian citizens, why not, right?
Exactly. And I think that we are seeing the fruits of what you planted way back then with Albert Chin movies going outside of the border, and even this recent Drunken Birds, this Quebecois films, started in Mexico. Uh, so
No,
I
I'm happy. I think that telefilm is really changing. I mean, it happened with Krista, I think, about a couple of months ago, where they said, okay, let's just get a committee together. I'm sort of wary of committees, but let's get a committee together and let's look at all films from, even if they aren't in English or French or an indigenous language. Let's treat all Canadian citizens equally and give them the respect that they're due, because it is about respect. I mean, why would anybody want to make a film in Pashto if it wasn't the way Salar did Pashtunar, if it wasn't essential? If it
Mhm.
did, it's about authenticity, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And this started off a whole new sort of idea and concept of a Canadian cinema as not just being this sort of bleak, northern, Geneviève Bujold kind of film, which is nothing against Bujold. She made some wonderful films. But the bleakness was suddenly gone, and now we're seeing colors, and we're seeing, the ethnic fabric that is Canada. Um, and you open the doors for guys like Richie Mehta, who could go to India and make his films. And Nisha Pahuja, all these other filmmakers that followed, and not just Indian filmmakers. As I say, Albert Shin.
Mhm.
Um,
He's
you
one
know,
of them. Yeah, 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 yeah. And so is Richie. I mean, these are the young filmmakers who are, I mean, immensely proud of, and it gives you hope, whether they want to make their films in English or whether they're white, and it doesn't matter that they're not black or indigenous or colored, because that's also really important that we
mhm.
keep that vision alive, that treat everybody equally, you know, especially the young ones. I think that's really important because uh, many of them, I don't know if this is politically correct to say or not, but many of them are being sidelined. And you can't say that they deserve to be, because they don't deserve what our white forefathers did. So I'm very wary of that.
Right. Okay. So you think, and I just want to clarify what you're saying, and I don't know, I don't have any judgment on it, but if it would be all right if I was a filmmaker to go to India, and but I can make a film in India, but I couldn't do it from the perspective of an Indian, I don't think. Or do you think that's
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about
okay?
what we do in Canada about white filmmakers. Is
Right,
that I feel right now in our desire to be fair, and we deserve I think BIPOC people. So I'm talking about a person like myself
right.
deserve deserve to be to be compensated in ways, or given being allowed. We really deserve to be allowed or given money to do the films we want to do, but we must make sure that in the process, the young white filmmakers are not being punished and are not being sidelined the way we were. Hate makes hate. We cannot go there. Otherwise, not I don't want to progress at the expense of somebody else. That's what I'm saying.
And I would tend to agree with you too. I want to go back to how exciting it was when you made your Bollywood Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
And because I'm a huge fan of musicals, as I said, I even liked Peter Bogdanovich's At Long Last Love, one of the most films that most people just hate. Um, and I love the musical and I love the energy and the balcony scene in that. Um, would you, I mean, it's personal for me, but I really want you to make another musical.
I think, well, let's see if the opportunity arises. I wouldn't mind. I mean, Tom, it's so strange. Hollywood happened because we were shut down from doing water in India.
Hmm.
And I came back to Canada, and I thought, my God, I don't know if I ever want to make a film again. I was so devastated. But then I thought, yeah, let me make something that's so irreverent and fun. And that's the only thing that I could think of, and I wrote it. And before we knew it, David had, it's not a huge budget at all, and we said let's just have fun. And we had a choreographer who was actually not Indian, and he was he just his dance movements. I felt the way he was training the actors to was such a combination of the West and the East, because he didn't have the complete Bollywood moves, and yet he'd amalgamated them with the ones of West Side Story. So it was really what happened. I felt it reflected the times of us colored folk who were making cinema in, or even thinking, or reading, or writing in Canada those days, which is an amalgamation, a slow amalgamation, which is what I think multiculturalism and diversity is.
Yeah. And it's the elimination. Again, I'm spouting my own opinion here that you can agree with or not, but it seems to be the elimination of otherness that for BIPOC people. Like we're watching a story unfold. We're watching these stories of widows in India. It isn't other than us. It is a story that is a human story, which of course incorporates all of us. That's what I find really remarkable about the films you make and so many other BIPOC filmmakers in Canada now.
No, I think that Richie is amazing. I mean, there are so many other filmmakers here now. I mean, I think that, uh, you know, but it's, uh, I don't, I think what happened was that uh, the other should not be the other for too long. I mean, if this country has to survive, I think BIPOC people have had a really rough time, and
Hmm.
I think me included. I mean, the whole process of doing from Sam and Me to Water has not been an easy. We were not even funded for Sam and Me. We didn't get any money for Fire from from any of the institutions. None at all. Um, Earth, none, nothing. Water, nothing. The second time we did Water, Telefilm came in. So and after that, I'm not putting them down, but I'm just saying that the perhaps the stories didn't have any reverberation with the people who were reading it, and then later they did. Who knows? But those days, I just don't want any BIPOC people to go through.
Do
I
you
want
think they have changed?
I think somewhat, yes, of course. I mean, the fact that Telefilm right now says, okay, make the film in the language that you want to make it in, I
Yeah.
think is a huge thing. I think if you look at what CBC is now accepting and looking at, they're seriously looking at indigenous script, black scripts, colored scripts, and that's really about time, I say. Uh, but I'm also worried that, and I want to keep on telling them that please don't treat us as tokenism.
Yeah.
It's we have to have scaffolding. We have to be built not on quicksand of your moment of privilege right now and giving out handouts to us. Make it permanent, and the only way you can make it permanent is that make sure that we have a firm footing.
I love the analogies you're using. Um, and part of me thinks I wanted to say that these analogies and this insight you have, I'm not trying to justify or glorify what you went through, but is it possible that that struggle allowed this insight that you're being able to share with me now?
I think we learn everything from some struggling. I think that uh, it's important, but has it brought me here? No, not really. I don't think so. It's just made me more aware, but I don't feel that the shit I had to go through has made me who I am today or made me more aware. I think that it's a part of growing up. It's a part of stumbling. It's a part of being, you know, it's the roses and the brickbats, and it's growing old. That's what it is.
Well, you and I have that in common, maybe. Um, I find this is, when I hear people talk like you are talking to me right now, I am reminded why art is so important,
Hmm.
and why it needs to be funded. Because even just this conversation you're having with me and your insights, I mean, this is what changes our world. This is what changes life for people. It's not just getting our butts into theaters, which these days is very difficult to do, but it's not just getting the film up on screen. It's the knowledge and the heart and the warmth and a kind of understanding of our existence that otherwise can't be revealed except through art.
I totally agree. It's art seems to be there's my favorite quote these days, which I'll share with you. I change my favorite quote every few months, but this one really blew me away because it reflects the times we are in, and it's a quote by Brecht, and he said that art is not what mirrors reality, but it's a hammer that shapes it. And I read that and I said, holy shit. That's absolutely, if I, you know, art isn't about being authentic. Art is by shaping what authenticity can be.
Yes.
And that is, it was like such, so I feel that I can do a film about white folks. Am I going to be rapped on my knuckles in social media because how dare a brown person do a film about a white person, or how dare a brown person do a film where in Funny Boy, for example, where one of the protagonists is not Tamil. It's getting to a point where it's getting so limited I can't breathe. But what's happening is not my lack of breathing, but I think that what's happening is that uh, how do we have an opportunity to work with somebody who is really, really brilliant, who might be the right color, the right religion, but is not the right ethnicity for some reason, or or should we just not work?
Yeah, I think the answer to that is clear. Um, and it's starting on the other scope with is it Bridgerton, this series that my wife
Yeah,
loves?
yeah, 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 I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's so non-traditional casting, and that can work too. Um, but you have fought for your position. You have fought for where you are, and to be able to have the voice you choose to have, and demonstrate it the way you want. And because of that, it opens the door.
Or to be honest, women and men of all colors and all races are the ones that inspire me too. I mean, I saw a few years ago, a couple of years ago, Anne at 13,000 feet
Oh, isn't
by
that an amazing movie?
by Kazik, right? Radwansky, and I thought, wow, this is amazing. What a vision!
What
This,
a vision.
what a what, how thoughtful, how sparse, how wonderful, what wonderful use of cinema, and it was like being with her, with Anne. I mean, I felt when she dove, I think from the plane or something. This is like a couple of years ago. I said, I can feel how she feels, and
Yeah.
that is amazing.
Oh, and that scene with her when she brings her boyfriend home to
I
the
know that was,
family. Oh my God, that is great. And I
and
like
the
that actor, Matt Johnson, too.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know him, but he was very good. He was
Hmm.
very good when she was drunk and they were both in their feet was coming out of the toilet cubicle. I think these images that I remember, and I thought, whoever this filmmaker is, he's amazing. I mean,
I hope you told them. I hope you reached out and
I
told
did.
them.
I think I did. I think I wrote to him and I told him that I thought it was amazing. I mean, and there's this quasi-horror film that Madeline Sims and Dusty
Yes,
Manchili did called Violation. I thought, my God, it's brilliant.
it is brilliant. Uh, and well, I want to talk about your films. I gotta let you go in a few moments,
But
but
I'm saying that,
yeah,
Tom, that these are young white filmmakers, and am I going to be dismiss them because they're not of my color? I think that's not right.
well, no, you'd be missing quite a bit, and they would be, and if it was reversed, they'd be missing quite a bit. Oh my God, Deepa, now I have to, as soon as this COVID thing is done, I have to meet you for coffee because there's scenes in that movie we just mentioned that I got to talk to you about. But anyway,
Oh, we will. I mean, and they are BIPOC people. I mean, there's Arshad. Did you ever see his film, his documentary about growing up gay in Pakistan? Arshad Khan.
I don't know if I have.
It's a docudrama, and it's his first film, and it's actually really brilliant. And
Mm,
there's Deepa Mehta's crime story. I mean,
yeah,
brilliant. And
I think I think that's a great film.
oh, it really is. I mean, it's a and he's a brilliant young filmmaker. And then, there's. Did you see what's it called, Donkey Head?
Yeah,
I just loved it. And I
yeah.
thought, both of them, and there's this woman who I think is really superb. And
uh,
she's breaking all the boundaries. What she did with Donkey Head, I really loved because she wasn't saying, here I am, a Sikh brown person, and this. And what you realize in Donkey Head is that we all are very similar
yeah,
despite our color. Families and the problems, they might be particular, but Buñuel said the minute you're particular is the minute you become universal. And that's what Agam did. And that's what all good films do, I think, Tom.
yeah. You've just you always reignite my passion for cinema, Deepa. I'm going to. It's we've got to let you go in about 5 minutes.
Oh my God.
So
Okay.
I do wanna get to the part where you sort of already mentioned contemporary filmmakers that you really think highly of. But is there somebody new that maybe we haven't heard of yet or hasn't got a huge name that you really, really are championing now, a filmmaker and Canadian?
Yeah, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Um,
Am I
nobody
putting
comes
you on
to
the spot?
mind. No, no, not putting me on the spot. It's just that I'm trying to think of because it's been sort of limited for the last 2 months, what I've seen and what I've been able to see. I've been in
Yeah.
India and traveling and not had so much access. And all the films that I did talk about, I've seen about 2 or 3 months ago. I haven't seen anything, but if I see something that is new or see the work of a filmmaker who is new. I mean, I think Agam is new,
Hmm.
Donkey Head, and I thought very highly of her. I think she's an amazing actor. I think she's an amazing director, and she's she is what I think is a very important quality is that and is that she is feels I feel that if she doesn't do this, she's going to die. I mean, the passion is like
It's
that's
there.
really important. It's
is
not
there.
that let me see if I can take the notes from this one or A, B, and C and try and make compromises. It's if I can't do the film that I want to do, I might as well not do it. But I have to do it. I love that. I love that passion, and that passion has a lot to do with our history. I think. But I
Yeah.
will let you know if I see anything new. I mean, and I feel amiss that for 2 months I've been sort of AWOL, and I'll get into it.
Well, I do think Violation is certainly falls into that category.
Oh, I love Violation. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
and it's not an easy film. It's a very, very a difficult, excuse me, film to watch, and some would call it a revenge film, but it's not typical. It's exploitation, but it's exploitation that all makes sense. Anyway, very hard to
I
pinpoint
know.
that.
I really was so impressed with Violation. I was so
Mhm.
impressed with Madeline's performance. I was so impressed with Dusty's direction,
Yeah.
along with Madeline. But also the cinematography, which was like it sort of lulled you into the space of of I guess countryside or cottage side or whatever you call it of Canada, and the deer and the animals and how we actually, um, I felt we were disintegrating as a society in this film.
Oh, yes.
So much about that, and I felt, and they handled it with such finesse.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And the commitment that the male actor achieved in
Oh
that
yes, my
was pretty
God,
astounding.
it was.
Oh, we are not going to end this conversation on someone else's film, Deepa.
Okay, okay, here you go, Tom. Tell me.
um, yeah, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up Salman Rushdie, Midnight's Children, which is, of course, one of our generation's most profound books. Magic realism, and certainly a difficult story to tell. Yet, you went forth with it. You went ahead and did it. Um, what was that experience like? Not just to make. I know the snake story, which is wonderful, and you might want to retell that. But um, the whole process of making a film that is so profoundly in our literary consciousness.
Um, I I don't know. I mean, I remember sitting with Salman, who's a friend, and we were talking about the clown, what's Clown of Shalimar, I think, or whatever, that we wanted to work together. And he said, I remember him saying, he said, Deepa, if you could work on anything that I've written, what would you work on? And I said, Midnight's Children.
Yeah.
And then I said, oh Christ, I must be such a sucker for punishment. Why did I say that? Because he said yes, and I said, oh my God, David, what are we going to do? I don't even know where to start and where to begin. But it was a collaboration. Writing it was Salman wrote it, and but we were always into. And I thought as a director, I said, Salman, let's try. Why don't you go home and to New York and write down in point form what you think that the evolution of the film should be, and I'll do the same, and then we'll send emails to each other at exactly the same minute, and if we're on the same page, then it's worth it. Otherwise, it's not. And we did that, and I would say 90% we were very much aligned as to how we thought the film would unfold. And Salman didn't want to write the script, and I was too scared to write it,
Mhm.
because it was such a huge thing. So I think that we sort of did it together, but mostly it's his script, and it was a fabulous film to make, and maybe now I feel like Peter Bogdanovich did that. I just love something that everybody else hated. It just
Did,
doesn't matter, I just love it.
well, I love that movie. And but it is a movie that you have devoted. If you love the book, it's really hard to separate yourself. And I think that film really works when you put distance between the book
Yeah,
and the
yeah, I
film.
think so too. I think so too. Yeah.
Well, I made you a promise, and the promise was we're going to let you go at a certain time so you can join your family, which is really even as much fun as it is to chat with me, I'm sure. is more important.
It's fabulous to chat with you. It's fabulous to chat with you. It's really nice. It's nice to see you again, Tom. And we'll all get through this stupid Omicron now and get our lives soon and be nice to you saying coffee. I said, let's have a drink together. That would be
Oh,
more
yeah,
fun.
I was being polite. I definitely would like a drink. And I do run into you in the neighborhood, and I will corner you and make that dream come true. And we'll have David come, and he can
That'd
rearrange
be
our
nice.
chairs
We'll
for
get
us.
David. Yes, exactly. We won't let him touch the chairs, but we'll let him come.
Thank you very much, Deepa.
Thank you. My pleasure. My pleasure. Have a lovely rest of the day. Thank you,
You
Tom.
too. Bye-bye.
A huge thank you to our guest, Deepa Mehta. You can find out more about Deepa's future projects and filmography in the show notes. Rewind Fast Forward is hosted by Thom Ernst and produced by Moira Demorest. Support for this podcast comes from the Kingston Canadian Film Festival, which is situated on the traditional homeland of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Huron-Wendat. This podcast is generously funded by the Canada Council for the Arts. Thank you for listening.